Hi, this is Andreas Antonopoulos in Latin America in Buenos Aires, Argentina for the Latin American Bitcoin Conference. I'm very pleased today to have with me Nic Cary from Blockchain. Nic Cary is the new CEO of Blockchain.info, the company that has brought so many new users into the space by giving them an easy-to-use online web wallet. I'm very excited to have you here, Nic.
Thank you very much. Mucho gusto.
Thanks for coming, and thanks for all the work that you have done as part of the Blockchain.info company. I know you've experienced some absolutely outstanding or dramatic growth in the recent months after the price change.
Yeah, it's been a very wild ride. I'd have to say that all the credit really should go to the co-founder who has designed and built an unbelievable web tool that's brought wonderful value and solved some really important problems in the Bitcoin economy as a young business. And so the last few months, we've seen really impressive community adoption of blockchain. We're one of the older companies in Bitcoin. I think we're 2.5 years old now, so that makes us almost Jurassic in Bitcoin years. But I'm happy to talk more about sort of the trajectory of the business and tell you a little bit more about what we've been working on. So November was a particularly historic month for blockchain. At the very end of October, we actually hit 500,000 wallets. So that represents 500,000 users. And you think about some of the big cities in the world, that's actually the same size as some of them. So we're really seeing impressive adoption of Bitcoin. And that was just through October. So kind of a historic number just for people's psychology. But November was even better. We saw almost 300,000 new wallet users in the month of November with just unbelievable traction. At one point, we were doing 1,000 new wallets an hour. That velocity is continuing through December here, so we're watching all that very carefully. It's been wonderful to see the traction.
One of the things that I find most interesting about blockchain, apart from the user interface, which is relatively easy to use and has been developing, one of the core principles behind the Blockchain.info wallet is that you don't store the credentials of the end user, and you essentially give them the ability at any time from a wallet backup to be able to reconstruct their wallet and use it independently in any other application. Traditionally, there's been this trade-off where you either have the full desktop client and full control, or you go to a web wallet, but then you've got this trusted third-party issue that can introduce a lot of risk. And you seem to have found the golden mean right between those positions. Tell me a bit about that model.
Yeah, we like to call it a web-assisted wallet. So we have all the convenience of a web wallet, but none of the liabilities. So we really try and democratize the technology as well, so that end users, if they choose, even if they don't trust us for some reason, even though we don't have access to their private keys, their passwords, or any of that, they can leave anytime. And we provide lots of tool sets to migrate to other tools. But we really hope that people find a safe place to store their Bitcoins at Blockchain. I like to tell people that I store all of my Bitcoins at Blockchain.info, but it's really important for users to understand basic security practices they really should follow. So all users should set up two-factor authentication. They should really learn and set up a secondary password, which approves a transaction send. And if they do those things, then they're most likely going to be just fine. The most secure way to use Blockchain.info is to use either the Android app, our iPhone app, the Chrome extension, or the Firefox extension. Those are the best, most secure ways to use the Blockchain.info wallet.
And so the secondary password, which is a key innovation, it prevents you from sending funds unless you enter the secondary password.
That's exactly right. So for example, let's say you use the Blockchain.info Apple wallet and someone steals your wallet. If you didn't have a secondary password set up, they could send transactions from that wallet if you were logged in. The secondary password would prevent something like that from happening. So think of it almost like a PIN or a key when you pull money out of an ATM or authorize any type of movement of money from your wallet. And of course, if you have an email address set up at Blockchain.info, we'll automatically send you a wallet backup, and you can get that directly to your email instantly after the transaction is complete.
I'm one of the more security paranoid people in the space, primarily.
We appreciate it.
through experience in security, it makes me paranoid because digital information security is really hard. It's not easy. I really appreciate Blockchain.info's ability to provide multiple layers of security. So it's not just about having a secure core, but layers and layers of protection so that the more you're trying to do with the wallet, the more security you have to get through. If I just want to check my balance, I'm never going to see the second password. But if I do want to send, then I have to escalate my level of security. And that provides me with a much greater degree of comfort.
Yeah, and you should know that we host in all of the code for Blockchain.info on dedicated private servers. So there are 0 third parties involved at Blockchain.info. All of the code was all crafted internally. Everything's homemade. We don't use third-party software anywhere.
One of the little notice features, perhaps, and I'd like to point this out, when you're requested the secondary password for sending, there's a little hidden feature there, which is what pops up on your screen is a virtual keyboard. Some people may wonder why that is. Can't you just go into the input field and type away on your keyboard? Yes, of course you can. But the real magic of that feature is that it allows you to mouse your second password so that even in the event that your machine has been completely Trojan and compromised, and you have a keylogger, which is probably one of the biggest threats for online wallets or wallets in general, the keylogger will not be able to capture the entry of the secondary password.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. That is an amazing and really important point. And one of the responsibilities we have is to actually help users understand to do these things more and to guide them and coach them through these things. So I'll speak real quickly about a project we're working on, which is a new user education game, basically. So when a wallet will be created, we will actually send a user through a pathway of learning what a private key is, how to use an address, how to set up a secondary password, and actually demonstrate this functional use so that people are actually behaving and learning to do these things without someone having to have a one-on-one conversation with them. So at the end of this game, we'll have actually a reward for new users who complete it, and we'll give them some fractions of a Bitcoin for completing it. So that's kind of one of the things we're working on. We really feel strongly that in order for Bitcoin to be ready for the next 10, 50, 100 million users, some of these best practices have to just become second nature. And so far, the battlefield of Bitcoin has really been fought in these one-on-one conversations, and some amazing evangelists have dedicated their entire lives to doing that. But the software has got to mature. The new user education has to mature, and it has to be so simple to use that people don't even realize why they're clicking on the secondary password that way for their own privacy. But that's one of the things we're thinking about. So we're trying to incorporate those things into maturing our software.
There are many layers of security, and very often security is seen as the kind of thing where you just buy a security product, say a firewall, you put it as a point solution, and of course that's not security. And above that, you want to think about architecture, operations. But in this new field, I think one of the most underappreciated aspects of security is user interface design and user experience. The best way to apply security is when the user doesn't even know they're secure. But through their user experience in the interface, they adopt secure practices because it is the intuitive thing to do rather than the counterintuitive thing to do. And I think you've made a lot of progress in that space.
Yeah, and I think the other area I will comment on, which is that we live in this age now where many, many people are so not careful with their privacy. In fact, they live completely open with their whole world on Facebook, on Twitter, and all these social media sites. And I think that Bitcoin can almost interestingly bring some of that privacy back without people even necessarily knowing it, by designing very effectively, by teaching through games and otherwise why using things like Bitcoin can actually improve everyone's freedom and security around the world. But I think about that for all the millennials that they broadcast their whole lives in the world, but we're about to introduce the most digital, most free money in the history of time that can also be the most private one. And I think companies should have an obligation to sort of weave that same sort of philosophy into the privacy side and not just the security.
Security is a problem for Bitcoin. But as an entrepreneur, and especially in the field of security, that means opportunity. And we have programmable money, so we can actually innovate in ways of security and create new security models, new security paradigms, new security practices through this programmable money, be it multi-sig, be it coin join and being able to do anonymization, or be it the user interface design. Where do you see Blockchain.info's role in innovation innovation and using innovation as a tool to drive better security and better wallet experience?
So it is going to be a core principle of the blockchain team to implement and prototype all kinds of new ideas. And a little like Google Labs does that, that's going to be something we incorporate well into our business. We'll literally spend time and resources on wild ideas just to see if we can get them working. I love multi-sig. CoinJoin is a major push inside the blockchain wallet right now. It is currently a free feature that helps users break the custody of coin transactions without ever having to surrender their coins to a centralized server. So it allows a server to manage proposals and individuals to basically make a shared transaction together. And what's amazing about CoinJoin is that it actually improves the privacy of the entire Bitcoin network, because when you study transactions now, you won't know whether or not any of the original addresses belong to the same person. So we're very excited about that technology. Multi-sig is definitely on our radar as well. And we're open to ideas from anyone. So to everyone who's listening, if you have great ideas, please send them along. We're definitely looking for innovation from our users. That's actually been one of the reasons why blockchain looks and behaves and is the way it is. We spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on Bitcoin Talk forums, going through posts, responding to people, and we haven't gotten to everyone. And part of it has been more difficult than ever to keep up with the volume of interactions. And we are dedicating resources around the clock to work on these things. So if you have good ideas, please share them with us. We want to build things that Bitcoin users love and make and want in their lives.
I would add to that it has been incredibly impressive to watch, and that's probably due in no small part to Ben, the core engineer of Blockchain.info, to watch how quickly ideas can be turned into reality prototypes and then actual production code. And I think one perfect example of that was within less than a week of the release of CoinJoin as an idea,
as a
methodology, there was an implementation in Blockchain.info. It was absolutely the first implementation in any wallet, and certainly that is in no small part due to Ben.
Yeah, Ben is unbelievable, and I think what inspires him in many ways is an impressive sense of curiosity around how new and innovative things can be done with Bitcoin. So whenever there's a project like that needs some attention, he's on it right away, and he studies it, and he thinks about how to build something. And when it makes sense for us to have that in blockchain, we will. When it makes sense to open source things and just provide resources to the community, we'll do that as well. So yeah, he read that, studied the proposal for a CoinJoin solution, and I was talking with him one afternoon. I was like, "Do you think that something like that could be done?" He's like, "Yeah, I think maybe in like 3 or 4 days." I was like, "Yeah, I've heard that before from developers, and sometimes that's 3 or 4 months or something like it." But he delivers very quickly.
And so, what's next for Blockchain.info? Where do you see the future in the next 12 months?
Okay, 12 months. I probably won't try and project that far along. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in blockchain, and we're really trying to prepare it for newer audiences. I think Blockchain.info became so successful because it was listening to the very earliest adopters who wanted amazing and interesting features for Bitcoin. And the next kind of battlefield in Bitcoin is to create interfaces that are much more familiar to millennials, to mom and pop people, to anyone who's got a cell phone. So we're thinking about that in a couple different ways. This summer, Blockchain purchased Blockchain.com. So we own a couple different web properties. So we've got Blockchain.com, Blockchain.info, and we'll be launching SharedCoin.com sometime in Q1. So the idea behind these different properties is as follows. Blockchain.info will continue to be the Bitcoin block explorer, and we're going to build more and more functionality into studying the Bitcoin economy, being a resource for journalists and academics and anybody that wants to crunch numbers. So big data analytics is definitely going to be coming to Blockchain.info, and one of the hopes there is that we'll continue to get feedback from people on what to build, and we do every week, and there's some really profound and interesting economists that are starting to provide guidance for us for things that they're looking for, and if we hear an interesting idea, we just implement it. So the vision for Blockchain.info is basically to become a little bit like the Google for Bitcoin, studying the network, or maybe the Bloomberg of Bitcoin, and we're going to be investing in that for especially sort of more sophisticated Bitcoin Bitcoin users. Blockchain.com is going to become the web wallet, and we're going to build out and invest all over the place to make the user experience as familiar and as simple to use as possible while teaching people about privacy and about security. So those are going to be core principles in our apps. We're totally reworking all the UI right now for a wonderful new iPhone application that I hope to get out in the next quarter as well. We're going to be investing in our Chrome extension, our Firefox extension, Firefox OS. We want to be wherever people are so that they have access to their blockchain wallets in a secure way that's easy to use. And that's kind of the key functionality we're sort of focused on in blockchain, is basically putting it on mobile and making it easier to use. That's a major endeavor, and a lot of people talk about those things, but we're going to A/B test everything. When we can't figure out which way to design, we're going to let math prove it for us. The last property is sharedcoin.com, and the vision for SharedCoin is actually to turn it into a donation and campaign building application. So if I'm really inspired by the World Wildlife Foundation, or I want to donate money to a cause in Africa or something like that, I'll be able to build a campaign there and then solicit donations from other people around the internet in Bitcoin. So what'll happen is a bunch of proposals will be submitted into a SharedCoin campaign, and once the donations hit the peak amount, then we'll send a CoinJoin transaction to the end recipient. This will be a free tool for anyone who wants to start a campaign for any social cause or political cause that they feel they want to raise money for.
Very exciting stuff coming down the pike, and of course, all of this will be almost overshadowed by the enormous influx of users that we're certainly anticipating, if not slightly dreading, from an operational perspective. So, where do you see the growth in terms of wallets going in the next few months?
I anticipate it'll be very fast. Blockchain provides free APIs for teams and developers and entrepreneurs to integrate a Bitcoin wallet right into their apps or tool sets. So I'm having heard about some projects that are firing up in the next 6 to 8 weeks. I'm very encouraged for the total user base of Bitcoin growing, but for blockchain, it'll be very special too, because we're anticipating seeing over 1 million wallets, hopefully by the end of this year. I think that number is just going to keep going up. The velocity is getting faster and faster. So with free APIs for wallet creation and things like that, lots of different organizations and teams and businesses around the world are relying on the blockchain wallet. So we're excited for all the future growth. But for the most part, it's going to be a wild ride. We're investing right now in anticipation of that growth, buying lots of equipment and hardware and posting that in different geographic and politically redundant zones. We're anticipating the next big wave of users.
So you mentioned APIs. And I think that's probably one of the unsung heroes of Bitcoin in general, but also Blockchain.info. As a developer, I've used the Blockchain.info APIs. And I think it's important to mention the richness of those APIs, both in terms of being able to extract information from transactions and blocks in easy-to-consume JSON and RESTful interfaces, but also some of the real-time WebSockets interfaces that you have that can be used to create applications that are ultimately responsive in real time to events on the network. Can you tell us a bit about the APIs and their importance to your business?
They're hugely important to Blockchain.info. So if you're an entrepreneur or developer and you're interested in getting a business started up, please check out the free documentation. They've always been free. We have a rate limiter right now in place, but you can easily apply to override that. And if you're anticipating a lot of traffic, definitely get an API key for it. We think, and we don't know for sure because you don't even have to be a blockchain user to use some of our APIs, but they're responsible for 1/3 to almost nearly 1/2 of all of the volume on the back end for wallet creation and transactions in the Bitcoin economy from the blockchain wallet perspective. So they're very interesting. They're very exciting. They're incredibly strategically important for us. We will continue to keep the documentation current, to release APIs for all the services we build. We want people to do anything and everything they want with our technologies.
Nic Cary of Blockchain.info, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us some of your vision and the exciting days ahead for Bitcoin and for Blockchain.info. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's going to be an incredibly exciting year. We're looking forward to building a world-class team. So if you are interested, please visit us at Blockchain.info and get in touch. We're looking for people to help join the mission. Thank you.
Purse.io is a gift exchange that helps you shop on Amazon with Bitcoins and at a 6% discount. How does it work? You create an Amazon wish list, share it with Purse.io, and deposit Bitcoin equivalent to the cost of your item. You'll soon receive your item in the mail, purchased for you by someone who gets your Bitcoin in return. You must try this new service. Let's Talk Bitcoin listeners will even receive additional rewards. Visit Purse.io.